the FBI director is being questioned by New Jersey Senator Cory Booker.
Defend us, defend children, reassigned. You're not denying that. I've seen you time and time again attack my colleagues' premises of questions as a way to not answer the question. So let me end with this. I believe you have made our country weaker and less safe. I believe that we are more vulnerable to a major event, and I pray to God it doesn't happen. You've gutted the Bureau of Institutional Knowledge and Expertise. You fired or pushed out seasoned FBI officials, many with more than 20 years of experience, and were working on cases that were critical. You've been purging thousands of serious law enforcement officials who spent their careers keeping us safe, only to lower hiring standards in order to find anyone to replace them. And shockingly, you admitted in this hearing to Senator Coons that it would take 14 years to fill the vacancies at your agency. Many are the result of your purge. 20% of FBI agents are doing low-level immigration enforcement instead of their mission-critical work. You've disbanded entire task forces that stop election interference, foreign influence, public corruption. And who benefits from this? Well, corrupt people benefit from it. Criminals benefit from it. Vladimir Putin benefits from it. And it really makes me wonder who you're looking out for. It makes me think we can't trust you as a nation. You swear to release the Epstein files, but now you're withholding the Epstein files. You claim that you have a suspect in a serious assassination. Whoops, then you don't have a suspect. You know nothing about plans to remove FBI agents, yet you're directly involved in those plans. In the words of an ex-FBI official, you are overseeing, and I quote, generational destruction of the nation's premier law enforcement agency. Mr. Patel, in just 8 months, you have assaulted the institutional integrity of the FBI. But I know FBI field agents. I've worked with them in Newark. No matter how truly bad you are, you can't undermine the legacy of agents who fight every day to keep us safe, but you can tarnish the integrity of the agency and undermine the agency's capacity. I believe you're failing as a leader, and that your failure does have serious implications for the safety and security of Americans and our families. We're more vulnerable to domestic and foreign attack because of your failures of leadership. I don't think you're fit to hand the Bureau, but here's the thing, Mr. Patel. I think you're not going to be around long. I think this might be your last oversight hearing. Because as much as you supplicate yourself to the will of Donald Trump and not the Constitution of the United States of America, Donald Trump has shown us in his first term and in this term, he is not loyal to people like you. He will cut you loose. This may be the last time I have a hearing with you because I don't think you're long for your job. But I'm going to tell you this, I pray for you. I pray for you that you can step up and defend your oath, defend the Constitution, and do a much better job of defending this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you want to say anything?
Yes, sir. That rant of false information does not bring this country together. If you want to work on bringing this country, it's my time, not yours.
My God.
If you want to talk about
dividing this country,
it is my time.
I follow you on your social media posts that tear this country apart.
To address your falsehoods.
Oh,
you can
try all you want
in this country.
To not take responsibility for what you have said.
Time.
Sir, you're making a mockery of this committee. Sir, you don't tell me my time is over. The people of New Jersey tell me what my time is. You can't lecture me.
You can tell me my time's over.
You may be the charge of the FBI.
I'm not going anywhere.
I am not afraid of you,
Mr. Chairman.
Not afraid of you.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Senator Booker, I announced at the beginning of this meeting that this back and forth, talking over each other, doesn't work. And I said if that happened, I asked Patel not to respond, and I was going to give him some time after the senator's time was up to respond. And he has the privilege to do that uninterrupted.
Mr. Chairman, one point of order.
Go ahead, Mr.
I've
Patel.
watched him talk over us, and you've never once criticized him for us not even being able to get our questions out.
Well,
he has been rude and disrespectful to senator after senator.
And when the senators were not giving him a chance to answer, I didn't stop the senator either. Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If the FBI, under my 7-month leadership, were failing this administration in this country, why do we have 23,000 violent felons arrested this year alone? A a double increase from that time last year. Why is it that we have seized 6,000 weapons? Why have we found 1,500 child predators and arrested them? Why have we 300 human traffickers in jail? Why have we found and identified 4,700 children? Why have we seized 1,600 kilograms of fentanyl, enough to kill a third of the American public, a 25% increase alone from last year? 88,000 kilograms of cocaine seized, 7,000 kilograms of meth seized, and that's just on our criminal operations in summer heat. How is it possible that we're taking 8 kilograms off the streets of the cities in New Jersey and preventing the deaths of 607,000 people this year alone, a failure of the FBI and my leadership? How is it that we have counterintelligence arrests already this year exceeding the numbers from the entirety of last year? 33% increase in PRC, 83% in Russia, 60% in the CI space as it relates to Iran, and we haven't even talked about CT, the southern border, the northern border.
Before Senator Cruz, I kind of feel like a broken record today. All this interest in FBI termination, yet my colleagues showed no intent or interest in when my whistleblowers suffered retaliation over the past years, particularly the past 4 years. Indeed, one whistleblower has alleged that Brian Driscoll's insubordination, whether an agent is on a hot button case or not, they ought to be held accountable for misconduct and weaponization. Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I have to say, it used to be that to see theater, you had to go to the Kennedy Center. Now, apparently, you need only go to the Senate Judiciary Committee and see our Senate Democrats berating the director of the FBI, which, okay, it's not, partisan politics is not new in the United States Congress. But what is remarkable is what Senator Booker was berating Director Patel about. He wasn't berating him for failing to do his job, but rather he was furious for Director Patel for successfully doing his job. For 4 years, the Democrats under Joe Biden had an open border that undermined the safety of every single American. They allowed 12 million illegal aliens to come into this country to invade this country, and every single day Americans were murdered, women were raped, children were assaulted by violent criminals that Democrats released. Now, Director Patel, I found Senator Booker's questioning really bizarre. He asked you, have you reassigned FBI agents from human trafficking to immigration issues? Director Patel, are the Mexican cartels that are bringing people illegally into this country engaged in human trafficking?
Yes, sir.
What the hell does it mean to reassign someone from human trafficking to immigration? The greatest human trafficking in the world has been over the last 4 years at our southern border. It is modern day slavery that the Democrats still defend. They still defend those open borders. Mr. Patel, he also said, did you reassign FBI agents from protecting children to immigration? How many children have you found that were victimized by the open borders of the previous administration?
4,700.
4,700. And yet, oddly, I don't hear a Democrat here saying, gosh, thanks for protecting those kids.
35% increase year to date last year.
All right, I want to shift topics. And I want to shift topics to what happened last week. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He was assassinated because of his political views. We're living in a time of enormous division and tragically hatred, and hatred that manifested in evil that we saw last week. Now, the FBI, working in concert with state and local law enforcement, apprehended what appears to be, in all likelihood, the murderer. And you did so in just 33 hours. So I want to start by just congratulating you and the FBI agents and state and local law enforcement for successfully apprehending the murderer in less than a day and a half. In the wake of that assassination, We have seen far too many people on the left celebrating the assassination. We've seen Democrats, we've seen activists cheering it on. We've seen, tragically, teachers in high schools, teachers in elementary schools, university professors cheering on the murder of Charlie Kirk. You and I both knew Charlie well. He was a good friend. He was an extraordinary man. And I will say there's a great deal of discussion about what to do about it. Under our Constitution, under the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, speech is protected. And that's true even for vile speech. Someone can stand up and say the most hateful thing, and it's protected by the First Amendment. Nazis and Klansmen can march in the streets, and even though their speech is bigoted and horrible and racist, the First Amendment protects it. Conduct, however, is not protected by the First Amendment, particularly conduct that is violent. Violent conduct that is threatening others, that is harassing others, that is injuring, or in this case, murdering others, is most assuredly not protected by the First Amendment. And so I would encourage you and the FBI to focus on conduct. Now, speech can guide you to those engaged in conduct. And I will say one question that I have and many have, and I recognize this is an ongoing investigation, so I don't want you to say anything that would compromise the investigation. But what can you tell us at this point about what evidence there exists of other individuals who may have had prior knowledge of this assassin's plans to murder Charlie Kirk on September 10th?
Generally speaking, we've interviewed numerous people, family members and friends, including the partner, to provide us with a detailed history of the knowledge he may have had, the suspect may have had prior to. We're still mapping out who, if anyone, was involved as an accomplice. As I said, the investigation is ongoing. We're also speaking to and going to interview numerous individuals online who were part of a chat group that was involved in this heinous assassination. And we're also going to work with our state and local partners out in Utah to find out what community organizations, if any, participated or had any foreknowledge of this information. But it's very much ongoing. I remind everybody that it's not even been a week since Charlie's tragic death.
Is it accurate? It's been widely reported that the assassin's roommate was a transgender man who was transitioning to be female, and it's also been reported that they may have been romantic partners. Is that accurate?
Yes, Senator.
And I assume the FBI is investigating. It has also been reported that there were transgender chat rooms that may have had some awareness of the plan to commit this murder. Is that accurate as well?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
It's been reported that there were chat rooms of transgender activists that indicated some degree of potentially of foreknowledge of this murder.
We're still developing that.
Do you have any information the bullet casings had on them both Antifa and LGBT wording on them? Do you have any indication of the source of those engravings and what inspired them?
As to the actual source, we're still developing that.
I want to encourage you in the course of this investigation, absolutely go after anyone who aided and abetted. But I want to more broadly encourage you, follow the money. The violence we are seeing is not purely organic. There is, I believe, significant money that is spreading dissension, that is spreading violence. Antifa. Do you believe Antifa is a terrorist organization?
I believe Antifa is associated with a lot of violence in this country. As to its designation, I'll leave that to the appropriate authorities.
So I would encourage the administration to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization, to go systematically after Antifa. They've committed acts of violence all over the country. And the shell casings have multiple references to slogans that Antifa has popularized. I believe there is considerable money funding it. I would note that I've introduced legislation called the Stop Funders Act. Stop Funders Act would add rioting to the list of predicate offenses under RICO. I believe the money should be tracked and prosecuted under RICO. And both the Antifa and Black Lives Matter riots of a couple of years ago and the pro-open border riots in Los Angeles and other cities of this past year, I believe there was significant money behind those riots. I'm not the only person who noticed at the anti-Semitic protest and violent protests on college campuses that many of the tents all matched. And so I would ask, would it aid your ability to prosecute these matters if Congress passed into law the Stop Funders Act and if rioting was added to the list of predicate offenses for RICO?
Yes.
Talk to me
We're going to
about
continue to
the
monitor
efforts
this
of the
hearing,
FBI.
and it is clearly not even close to being over. But I do want to talk to my panel here about what we heard between Cory Booker and Kash Patel, and then following that, Ted Cruz and Kash Patel. Jeff?
I mean, obviously, Senator Booker raising many of the questions and concerns in what was more of a monologue, really summarizing the view of Democrats of what he thinks of Kash Patel. It became very heated, which is not surprising. We saw Senator Booker walk out of the hearing room. Republican chairman, Senator Grassley, ultimately interrupted or tried to bring order, but I think they will not bring a resolution to. Those are the central questions. One thing I think that Senator Booker pointed out, he said that I think you are not going to be around very long. I'm not sure that that is true. One thing that is dramatically different of the many things that are different of the Trump administration the second time around than the first, we've seen very, very, very few firings. And I think by Senator Booker there really having a very explosive moment with the director, I think that probably keeps the director in his position longer, because President Trump likes a fighter, and Kash Patel at that moment looked like a fighter. But I think the bigger point here, just really quickly, is that he would not be there if President Trump had not fired Christopher Wray. He was still 2.5 years left of his 10-year term here. So loyalty is important, absolutely, but we've not seen President Trump fire nearly as many people as last time.
And President Trump was just asked a couple of hours ago, specifically whether or not he still has confidence in Kash Patel, and he didn't hedge at all. The answer was yes.
Correct. And President Trump has what he wants in high-level officials around the government, which is people who will do what he wants them to do, whether he tells them directly or just puts it out into the universe, and then that happens. At one point during this hearing, Kash Patel, or several points, was asked about whether there's an enemies list or a list of people to be fired, and he insisted there wasn't, that he's making these decisions. But the message is very clear. In an unrelated situation, but clearly related. Caroline Levitt at a White House press briefing not long ago was asked about firings at the CDC, at the Centers for Disease Control, and she said, people need to be loyal to President Trump. People need to agree with the president and do what the president wants if they want to keep their jobs. And that is something that is playing out. Certainly high-level firings haven't happened, but below the surface at Justice Department and at the FBI, there have been a lot of firings, and that is one of the more contentious matters in this hearing.
We also haven't seen that much pushback from Senate Republicans, and we can tell when they are angry. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, there were pretty direct questions from Republican senators to RFK Jr., right? We haven't really seen that.
And we saw them upset about the way that Patel and Bondi were handling the Epstein files.
Exactly.
They were not shy about that.
Exactly. But when it comes to, the Kirk investigation, which is something that Democrats have really been pointing and asking Patel about, essentially accusing him of, kind of completely just being a little too transparent in a process that we are used to, trusting the FBI, making sure that they are telling us the accurate information in real time. you are not seeing that pushback from Republicans. So again, I don't really think, to your point, that all of a sudden the Republican Party is going to be calling for his ouster.
And Daniel Bruno, I want to bring you back in after I had to interrupt you to go to that really remarkable exchange. Specifically, I want to ask you about what Senator Cruz was talking about with the FBI director. Senator Cruz is very media savvy, and he dropped some things into this hearing to put it on the record, which Kash Patel said that they are not sure about yet. He said we're still investigating that, and that was a question about whether or not there were transgender members of a group chat that might have known ahead of time about this attack. Now, I just want to emphasize, Kash Patel did not say yes. He made very clear we're investigating basically all the things that Senator Cruz and others asked about. What does that tell you as a former FBI agent?
Absolutely. As a case agent for 20 years, I never became a supervisor, never worked at the chain of command. I liked working these investigations. This absolutely would, put me in knots if I had someone out in the media sphere talking about my investigation, because it is still, in retrospect, is still in its infancy stages. They're still collecting intelligence. They're still collecting information. And I've worked closely with the U.S. Attorney's Office. I have, very close friends of mine who are AUSAs, and they would absolutely also be very upset that the director of the FBI is out there talking about this investigation, in providing information. But yet, during his testimony, he himself was asked about other investigations, and his comment was, well, that's an ongoing investigation. So he's asked about other investigations, and his comment is the correct one. It's an ongoing investigation. I cannot comment whether it is or is not ongoing. So the fact that he is talking so much in the public sphere about this investigation, about the shooting, is difficult to hear as a case agent, and it would not be something I would want.
Well, politics is so infused in this. I mean, politics is infused in everything in this town, let's be honest about that, but particularly in this. And there are things that there is an interest in getting out there, and we have to wait and see what exactly the investigators come up with, and also in the short term, what we see in the filing document when they actually formally charge the alleged shooter, which is expected to happen today.